Welcome to Views on News. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be deliberating on the Middle East situation, of course it being one of the most important topics in the world. And with regards to that, we know Israel continues with its expansionist designs. With regards to that, we know it started off from the Palestinian territories, then it moved to Lebanon, and now we're seeing Israel escalating its confrontation with Iran as well. That is further spiraling the Middle East into a chaotic situation. If you talk about the death toll in the Palestinian territories, Israel's brutal bombardment in Palestine has led to a death toll of more than 43,000, which includes women and children as well. And if we talk about the international condemnation by the world community, we saw the United States of America, the biggest ally of Israel, it saw its own version of the Arab Spring. With regards to that, we saw protests, university protests erupting throughout the United States of America. There were protests and demonstrations against Israel's barbarianism throughout the world over in the Middle East region, in South Asia as well. We saw a lot of protest demonstration against Israel's barbarianism in Pakistan as well. And in regards to that, a case was filed against Israel's atrocities by South Africa in the International Court of Justice. And we also saw how European countries, they condemned Israel's actions. And of course, some of them, they also cut diplomatic ties with Israel regarding its barbarianism. That it continues despite all this condemnation that has been pouring in from the world community. In a development today, a bill was passed in Israel's parliament which aims to ban the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the UNRWA. And this move was criticized and condemned by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the World Health Organization's DG Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus as well, with regards to Israel's efforts to stop the humanitarian aid for the innocent people of Palestine and of course Lebanon as well. The Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif just a while ago in his address at the 8th edition of the Future Investment Initiative, he also highlighted that there can be no progress without the resolution of the Israel-Palestinian conflict. And of course he referred to the two-state solution as being the only solution, and also called upon the world community to expedite their efforts with regards to stopping Israel's barbarianism. We'll be discussing the different points and aspects related to the Middle East situation. In the studios we've been joined by Rear Admiral retired Faisal Shah, who is a senior analyst, and we've also been joined by Baker Younis, who is an Arab journalist, who has also joined us in the studios. And on phone line we have been joined by Dr. Adnan Sarwar, who is a foreign affairs expert. I'd like to thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. Starting off from Rear Admiral retired Faisal Shah. Sir, Israel's expansionism, of course, when will it stop? We saw that it started off from Palestine, then Lebanon, and now the confrontation, it's escalating with Iran as well. It's further spiraling the Middle East into a deeper conflict. How do you comment on Israel's expansionist designs and of course the measures that could be taken by the regional powers and the world powers to stop that expansionist and barbaric agenda?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for inviting me to this program for an important topic, I think the most hot topic in the world right now. There is no doubt that whatever Israel is doing is condemnable at all levels. It has been condemned by every country, by all the humans in the world. The problem is that Israel is not understanding what it is doing, and it is opening new fronts on daily basis. Now there is a tension between Israel and Iran, which is a direct tension between two arch rivals in the region. And I think Iranians, I expect, are going to play it very wisely, cautiously, and they are going to use this opportunity to mobilize the world to stop genocide, what is happening in Gaza, which being carried out by Israel in Gaza. And I think this is a turning point. This should be a turning point in this whole conflict for the last 1 year, that this direct confrontation between the two countries, Iran and Israel, should be used, should caution the world at the most, and they should be mobilized to actually stop genocide in Gaza.
Right, with regards to that, there's some important points that you raised, Mr. Faisal, but I'd like to include Mr. Baker Younis in the conversation as well. When we talk about Israel's expansionist designs, of course, we know how things started off, of course, with their barbarianism in Palestine. Then they went on to start their bombardment in Lebanon, and now the confrontation with Iran. With regards to its agenda and how it's progressed with its adventurism, how Israel progressed with its adventurism in the region, we saw the international calls for condemnation, there's international calls for ceasefire, and international calls to put an end to Israel's bombardment. It still didn't stop. How do you comment on the overall situation developing and Israel ignoring these calls very blatantly?
See, when army moves, won't listen. You know, when there's a sounds of bombs, sounds of gun machines, these sounds won't be stopped by a person calling them to stop. So you need an army to stop them. Yet we in the Arab world, yet we in the Muslim world are not understanding the situation that there is an army killing civilian people. It's not, as you just mentioned earlier, an innocent. No, it is not. There's no innocent in Palestine and criminals, because Palestinians, their land have been occupied. So you can't name anybody of them a criminal and the other are innocent, because you have, the Israelis have occupied the land. So we are talking about an army have no morals, army have no rules, army don't obey any rules, and have as much weapons, as much support from the international community, from the United States, from the other countries. So this army won't stop, of course, because they have the power, they have the support. Why would they stop? Because United Nations call it, they actually believe that they are above the United Nations. They believe that the United Nations is not who can control them. So there is only one way to control them. It is an army. We need an army to stop what the Israeli army is doing. So this equation won't be, equal. We are dealing in a wrong way. We are still waiting United Nations to condemn. Okay, what if after condemnation? What if they condemn? Then what will happen? Nothing will happen. We call stop killing Palestinians. They won't listen to us. They never have listened. They have already occupied our land. As a Palestinian, they have occupied our land. As Muslims, they have occupied a holy land. So for them, they don't care. They only care about who can stop them. Yet nobody is stopping them. No army is standing against them. Neither from Lebanon, neither from Arab countries, neither from the Palestinians. So what Palestinians is doing, most of the news, most of the people keep saying that it was maybe because of the Palestinians. They have started this on 7th of October. But nobody is listening, nobody is aware that this happened in 1948, when the United Nations have recognized an occupiers as their people, the right people to have the land, which is not right. So this situation won't finish, won't stop. If the Israelis will kill today the Palestinians, if they eliminate all the Palestinians from Gaza, from the West Bank, from the 1948 occupied land, still this land won't be their land. One day, another generation will come and again will force them to move.
Definitely.
So this is going to stay, unless and until either an army intervene in this war and stop the Israeli army from what they're doing.
Right, so a more aggressive approach is what you're pointing at to deal with Israel's escalation and expansionist designs. I'd also like to include comments from Dr. Adnan Sarwar in the conversation. As the conversation has shaped up so far with regards to Israel's expansionist designs, it's blatant ignorance to international calls and blatant ignoration of the calls for condemnation as well. The United Nations has also talked about putting an end to Israel's atrocities that it is committing in the Palestinian land. But we also know those calls were also ignored. Do you think the United Nations at this moment stands as ineffective as the League of Nations was? Because anything that is being said against Israel, it is just being ignored.
Yes, you are right. This doubt is very right about the United Nations' ineffectiveness, as was the League of Nations. But you see, there's a difference as well, that the United Nations had been trying to vocally stand against aggression anywhere in the world happening. And the United Nations current Secretary General has really made a name of his in history by not mincing his words at all in support of the Palestinians, the civilians particularly, and the carnage and the genocide which is going on. And in fact, you see, because of all that, Israel has put a ban on his travel to Israel. Anyway, the point is that if you see the attitude and action of Israel at the moment since the last 1 year or so, it has been, you see, a huge loss in many directions. One, to international law. Second, and you know, the Charter of the United Nations is a piece of international law. Then ICJ's rulings, time and again. And the blatant violation and no observance, this means that Israel is creating a very, very deadly example for some other countries also in the future to be doing the same and ignoring the world body at its own wishes and will. So this is one thing, but you see, the point is that international organization like the UN, the biggest, you see, is a voice of the people of the world also, General Assembly particularly. You see, where votes after votes are against Israel, and a very bad image of Israel, not in the governments, but in the people, even in the non-Muslim people. You have been seeing the massive demonstrations against them have been held in the Western countries, unparalleled. So this is to say that the United Nations is not totally a failure, but it has been expressing voice and dispersing aid. Its own workers have been killed. You see, nowhere in the history so many aid workers of the United Nations itself have been targeted, and they are still very brave and courageous.
Dr. Adnan, there was also a development today with regards to Israel's parliament. They passed a bill which banned the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees. I'd also like your comments with regards to this ban and this development.
Well, again, you see another arrogance of the highest and criminal nature. I mean, the United Nations officials have just said that this ban is going to further damage the Palestinian civilians particularly, and I don't think so that they would be able to carry on with it for a long period of time, because overall there would be across the board condemnation. Still, you see, as an angel and as its typical arrogance policy, it has been doing it, you see, and nevertheless, I would still say that this ban, I think, on the pressure of the world bodies, human rights organizations, etc., is going to be lifted soon. They would not be able to sustain it.
I'd like you to stay with us through the conversation, but moving towards our guests in the studios, Mr. Faisal Shah, considering this new ban that Israel has placed on UNRWA, of course, we know it will hinder the humanitarian aid that was being given to the Palestinian people, to those in Lebanon as well, as they face this brutality. With this step by Israel, how do you think, what options are left for the world community to provide assistance? How, of course, we heard the remarks from Mr. Baker Younis with regards to a more aggressive approach towards curbing Israel's brutal aggression. But what options do you think the world community has with regards to providing the humanitarian assistance it wishes to provide?
I think first we need to understand why Israel has banned UNRWA. It is United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees, and it is working over there since 1949. So it's besides providing relief, it's a major employment agency for the Palestinians. So 30,000 of its employees are Palestinians, and Israel has been averse to this agency right from the beginning, because it provided not only relief but employment also. So on 7th October, what happened, post that, Israel blamed that 12 of its employees were involved in that attack. Investigation was carried out and they were not found guilty. Since then, Israel has been asserting that 10% of the employees of UNRWA have had links with Hamas. The investigation was carried out, independent investigation, and they were not found guilty. There were no traces. But despite that, Israel was bent on banning it, and they did it last night. Now, this is, as my colleague said, that it is blatant aggression. It is an expansionist mindset, cruel, genocide, that you are actually, what UNRWA provides to Palestinians, what do they have to eat? It's only flour that they provide. It's only flour that they get to eat, maybe once in a day. And even that facility has been snatched from them. They have been deprived of even that facility. So what does it tell of Israel? What Israel is doing actually, it's not only carrying out aggression on the land or on the borders, it's carrying out atrocities in every domain.
A sinister mindset.
A sinister mindset. Even in diplomatic domain, you see, they have incurred the wrath of whole world, what you are doing, but they are not listening to anybody. I just fail to understand that if they themselves are humans, how can they do what they are doing?
That's a very important point that you raised. With that, I'll move towards Baker Younis. Of course, with regards to what is happening in the world, what role do you think media has played in, of course, highlighting what the truth is from the propaganda? As Mr. Faisal has highlighted, there was a lot of propaganda that was being spread regarding all the aid that was being provided, regarding all the facts on ground. And of course, they've been trying to malign all the positive things by their false propaganda, with trying to create their own narrative with regards to their sinister intentions. What role do you think the media has been playing and can further play? And of course, how diplomatic norms can come into effect when we talk about putting pressure on Israel to stop its atrocities, such as certain European countries, they cut off diplomatic ties with Israel in relation to it continuing its atrocities and ignoring those calls that the international community has been making, condemning Israel's actions.
First of all, what my approach, which I just said before, you said it was more aggressive. It was not more aggressive. What I want to say, this is the only way we should deal with them, because they have not stopped a war against civilians since more than 1 year, continuously, 24/7, bombarding a civilian in Gaza. More than 50,000, it's around 50,000 now, people have been killed, and there's maybe around 100 more under the rebels. Till now, nobody knows how much people have been killed. So that's the real aggression. Media have played, of course, a very important role. But the point is, again, we have to understand the mentality of the Israelis. Now, they are in a way that they know their targets. The main target is to expand. They want to expand. They want to take Gaza. They want to expand, take the West Bank. They want to expand, take the North. So they are in an expansion role. This is one of the main targets. Second, elimination of the power of Palestinians inside Palestine. They want a people who can live just to serve them, you know, like slaves. They don't want anyone who says that this is my land. So this is the second target. The third one, they want the Arab countries, especially surrounding Israel, to understand that there is only one power in this region, which is Israel.
Hegemonic designs.
So this actually, this mentality won't be affected only by media, because now they have a bigger target, they have bigger ambitions. So media can maybe show what they are doing, can let people know, but it won't stop them, because they have a military, targets, they have on-ground actions. So it's very rare to affect or to stop such people or such mentality just by media.
And what about diplomatic isolation, as we also have organizations like the OIC and the Arab Summit that was held earlier with regards to the same conflict?
See, this might be an effective role, have an effective role, but still we have a full support from US to Israel, full support from UK, full support from, so these countries have more support, and they have, of course, more value than us. So that's the point. We are unable yet, our condemnation, our again and again call to ceasefire have had no value, against the Israeli aggression. So I think they won't much listen to us. They won't much, care. What they want actually now to do to reach to their target. They don't care how many people they'll kill. They want to reach to their target. And as we have heard from Trump himself before a few days in his speech, he said Israel have to expand. So we are not dealing only with Israel. We're dealing with US actually in Gaza. And in Palestine, sorry.
Mr. Abu Bakr, I'd also like your comments, since we're talking about how Israel has been ignoring all the international calls, and also how the world community stands polarized at this moment. We're seeing it divided in two sides. Of course, the majority being the one that stands on the Palestinian side, but we're seeing that the other side, they have their propaganda, they have their own narrative, and they continue to spread it by all means they can. With regards to that, do you think the United Nations, which had a primary role to resolve the conflicts in the world and of course maintain peace and stability in all regions of the world, do you think it has proven as ineffective as the League of Nations once was with regards to the resolution of these conflicts?
It is actually 100% ineffective. We have seen when the Indians have occupied now Kashmir, they were there, all the rules, it was totally ignored by the Indian army, and the same now happening in Palestine. So it is actually unfortunately, the laws, regulations, or orders by United Nations have no effect on the ground, especially when it comes to us.
Definitely. I'd also like to include comments from Dr. Adnan Sarwar in the conversation as the conversation has shaped up, and Mr. Abu Bakr was mentioning the mindset behind these expansionist and hegemonic designs. Of course, when we refer to two open-air prisons in these modern times, there's one that's Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and the other one, it's occupied Palestinian territories. What's your opinion with regards to the hegemonic nexus between India and Israel with regards to how they want to use aggression as a mode to further their settler ideology?
Right. Actually, this is a very pertinent question and very relevant as well. The point is that both of them are occupying respective lands which are forcefully governed by them and illegally, unconstitutionally. Now, in so far the nexus is concerned, so therefore this fits well in the scheme of the things that the both countries have the same mindset. They want to continue their not only occupation, but in terms of India, say for example, settling of the Hindus there. About 50,000 already have been settled there before this last election, the fake election that took place. Now the point is that Israel is doing a little bit more than that, because here you have at least with the grace of God Pakistan. But as our brother from Palestine, the participant today with us, was saying that there is no Muslim country, particularly the belt which is around Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Syria, which can send even the token military assistance to the dying Palestinians. So this is the difference. So here, but there you see, I think that most of the Jewish fundamentalists, the ultra Zionists, they are speaking even today, and this is inscribed in their books and educational books and written on something of their parliament or whatever is the main office, that they want greater Israel, which may cover even Syria and Lebanon and Egypt indeed, and up to, somebody was saying, to Makkah and Medina. God forbid, God forbid. So one shivers really. But you see, the point is that this is their religious, non-religious, I would say, idea, which may never be fulfilled. But at the same time, see, if they completely control Gaza, and it was rightly said that a new generation would come. So unless and until the Arabs themselves form a military command to deter Israel, you see, or the OIC or the Arab League on the institutional basis come up with something like NATO has been in the world. So if that is done somehow, worse come worse. That is the answer. Otherwise, you see, they would have no mercy upon the Palestinians, even upon the Jordanians one day and the Lebanese. They already gone into it. So the point is that why, after all, the Muslims in particular are waiting for the whole of the world opinion is with them. And any such kind of a move, you see, even the real boycott, those who have recognized it, is not taking place against some premier products of Israel. Lowering of the diplomatic relations have not taken place. So what does this mean? That Israel's outer circle of these Arab countries I just mentioned, in fact, let me say, and I'm saying it with deepest regret, has become a kind of a defense circle for Israel. They are defending Israeli rights to security, etc.
Dr. Adnan Sarwar Khan, of course, I think we're having technical issues connecting with you. Of course, we'll try reconnecting with you, but I'd like to come towards Mr. Faisal as the conversation has shaped up, and Dr. Adnan also mentioned a military command that needs to be established, not relying on the global powers to, of course, raise the concerns that all the Muslim countries have in the world. How do you think the organizations such as the OIC or the Arab Summit could help in establishing that military command? And of course, the contributions that all the Muslim countries could play in that?
I think that is not the solution. Establishing a military command of Muslim countries is not the solution because we seldom produce anything. I think this time is a turning point in the conflict that is going on in Gaza, as well as there should be a turning point in the Muslim history. In the conflict, I think if Iran plays its cards wisely and cautiously, I know they are very deft in diplomacy, I know they are deft in handling the situations. If they play their cards wisely, I think this is the time when the Gaza conflict can be stopped.
Mr. Faisal, sorry to cut you here, but we'll have to take a short break and we'll continue the conversation after that. Well, welcome back. Of course, coming back to our conversation, Mr. Faisal, as you were commenting, if you could conclude your comments because we're running short on time as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I was pointing towards two turns in the history right now. First is for the Gaza conflict, and I was saying that if this situation is adroitly handled by Iran and all Muslim countries, I think this is the time when Gaza conflict can be stopped. If this opportunity is missed, God forbid, it will continue. The second turning point is for the Muslim Ummah. We need to understand why Israel is prevailing, why the world modern nations are siding with Israel and why they are prevailing. Because of technology, because of advances in education. And we need to invest in education, we need to advance in technology, emerging technologies, technologies of today and tomorrow, research and development.
Putting our house in order.
Yes, things like that. Only then you can prevail. I give you one example that when science today invents something or finds out something, we relate it to the reference in Quran. And we say that it was mentioned to us 1400 years back. When it was mentioned to us 1400 years back, why couldn't we find it out?
Definitely.
Why couldn't we prove it through scientific calculations?
Definitely important points to ponder on. Mr. Abu Baker Younis, your concluding remarks as the conversation has shaped up so far.
You see, Palestinian issue won't be a solution only by the Palestinian hands. Yes, we are taking the steps. We don't want our country to be occupied. We want the Israelis to leave our country. We want the free Palestine, not only free Gaza, not only the free West Bank. But again, I have to say that it won't be only done by the Palestinians. It has to be done with the whole Muslim Ummah. I agree with His Excellency. Yes, we need to advance in technology. We need to really set our house in order. And we need to understand that this is a place that for all the Muslims. Masjid Aqsa is not the place, a holy place for Palestinians. It's a holy place for Muslims. We should protect it, not only Palestinians, but the whole Ummah.
Definitely, of course, that was how the conversation shaped up so far as we were discussing the Middle East situation and, of course, the developments that have unfolded regarding that. And all the guests that we have, they shed a lot of light and very went into depth with regards to the solutions that the Muslim world could have with regards to resolving this conflict and putting an end to Israel's atrocities. I'd like to thank all of our guests, Rear Admiral retired Faisal Shah, Abu Baker Younis and Dr. Adnan Sarwar Khan. Thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. Now we're moving towards the United States elections as we've been joined by our co-anchor and PTV World's correspondent in the United States, Jawad Tehami, who is there in the United States, in New York, to cover the developments with regards to the 5th of November elections and, of course, the developments regarding that. How's the weather in New York, Jawad, and what developments do you have for us? How's the voter trends and what's the voter sentiments in the U.S.?
Okay, Rafae, first of all, thank you very much. It's been indeed a great opportunity to be here at this critical juncture in the politics of the United States history when the Americans are going to elect their 47th president. You talked about the temperature, so let me segregate it on two fronts. One, the climatic temperature. Of course, we are entering into winter, it's the fall season, and we can see beautiful leaves falling all around, and the weather is changing. And so I expect the weather is changing back home in Islamabad also. So when we talk about the temperature on the political front, it keeps on rising. We are just 7 days from now on 5th of November, we'll be seeing the presidential poll happening. Already we've seen that millions of voters have already cast their ballot, around 42.5, more than that number of voters have cast their ballot in early voting and in mail box voting also. And we also see that this particular presidential election is being hotly contested. The polls are suggesting that both the candidates, the presidential candidate from the Republican side, former President Donald Trump, and Democrat nominee Kamala Harris, both are in a very close and a tight race, neck and neck race. And it is going to be on that particular day, 5th of November, that these critical states, where we talk specifically of the swing states or the battleground states, which are going to be of critical importance in order to in order to understand that how they are going to basically treat either of the two candidates. And these states include Pennsylvania, which has got 19 electoral votes, North Carolina 16, Georgia, likewise, it has got 16 electoral votes, Michigan 15, Arizona 11, Wisconsin 10, and Nevada 16. So we are looking at the campaign which is being rallied by both the candidates for the presidency this year around. They are focusing their energies basically on these 7 swing states. Why these are called the 7 swing states? Because there is ambiguity as far as the political understanding of the voters towards either of the parties is concerned. There are certain states which are clearly termed as democratic, which is represented by the deep blue color. And when we talk about the Republicans, it is represented by deep red color. So there are many states which are clearly having the side towards either the Democratic side or either towards the Republican side. But these 7 swing states, when we talk about these 7 swing states, there is a political ambiguity as to what the voter trend could be, and they happen to be of critical value when it comes to the outcome of the presidential election. So far, the survey, if I go into detail of these 7 swing states, specifically talking about Arizona, which has got electoral votes, the polls are showing by 538 daily poll tracker that it's 48.7%. That is towards the Trump side, 46.8 is towards Kamala Harris side. When we talk about Georgia,
Right, definitely. Of course, Jawad, there's a lot of details, but a quick question with regards to, I want to highlight this as well, because there's a lot of Gen Z voters taking part in these elections. A lot of them will be voting for the first time. With regards to that, which side are you seeing the Gen Z more inclined towards? Because, of course, first-time voters, many of them second-time voters, and of course, we know there's a youth bulge in the US as well at the moment.
Okay, so a very pertinent question. We have seen last time around, back in 2020, the largest voter turnout as far as the youth was concerned was witnessed in Michigan State. This time around, I've experienced a couple of rallies over here as well on Sunday at Madison Square Park. I can see all around a huge bulge of young people coming to those rallies. They seem quite enthusiastic. The political temperature is increasing over here. And as I've already mentioned, Michigan saw that a record turnout as far as the youth voter were concerned back in 2020. Now it is also expected the youth are going to come in huge numbers in order to express their uh, desire for either of the candidates. We have also seen Kamala Harris was in Michigan. It's one of those swing states, and she was focusing with her campaign on youth, and she has also promised to give them some benefits regarding education and the federal jobs as well. Likewise, on the other side, when I was at the Madison Square Garden, where former President Donald Trump had a rally, uh, thousands and thousands of supporters and likely voters were converged on that particular point. Now, New York is a hometown state of President Donald Trump, but it has been clearly a Democratic state. And last time around, also, for the incumbent president, Joe Biden, won that particular state by quite considerable margin. So specifically about the new generation, yes, they are enthusiastic and they're looking forward to have a change. The kind of hardships they've faced over the last 4 years in particular as well. And very interestingly, there were many people at that particular rally. When I talked to them, many of those people had been concerned about the situation globally when it comes to the situation, particularly in Gaza. And they're of the view that there should be an immediate and urgent ceasefire with an immediate access to humanitarian aid to the people in Gaza.
Right, Jawad, we're also, just a quick question as you know, we are running short on time as well. Just as we know, the Muslim community is very concerned about the situation in Gaza, and of course that is going to weigh in on the voters' sentiments with regards to who they're going to vote for as well. But with regards to both the candidates that we see in the presidential race, their comments, they're more supportive and more inclined towards Israel, as the US is also an ally of Israel. With regards to that, how do you think both the contestants, both the nominees, are going to woo the Muslim voters?
Well, okay, so there is a very clear understanding here among the voters also. Kamala Harris being the vice president in the incumbent administration under President Joe Biden, many are seeing this particular thing that if Kamala Harris wins this particular election, perhaps this particular policy is going to be continued. Of course, we have seen under Biden administration there has been a relentless expression of support, not only support but also in terms of aid, the military aid that we have seen President Joe Biden approving for Israel, and that particular offensive went on. It's been over a year now. 7th of October 2023, we have seen 7th of October 2024 passed. The world observed that anniversary, but rather than going towards a ceasefire, this particular aggression on the part of Israel is being continuing and without any stopping. Yes, we have seen that shuttle diplomacy on the part of the United States Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, but ceasefire talks haven't yielded any sort of result. Rather, we have seen an expansion happening towards Lebanon and also Israel targeting Iran as well.
Right. Thank you, Jawad, for giving us all the insights and updates. A rise from the United States where the action is all happening. And of course, 5th of November, where the race for the President House will conclude. And we'll keep having more updates, keep receiving more updates from our co-anchor in New York, Jawad Tehami, who is constantly updating us with regards to the US elections. And we'll also be deliberating on important topics as we continue with that during our daily shows. With that, see you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.